Servus and hello, Matthias here, and this is Singletrack. And yes, this is indeed another episode of your favorite trail running podcast. We're trying this weekly thing again. How cool is that, right? Well, before we dive into this week's conversation with Tera Pruitt, I want to tell you about one of Washington's gnarliest and nuttiest trail races, the Dirty Turtle 25 and 50K on May 20th, just outside Bremerton, Washington, on the Kitsap Peninsula. This gnarly early season race is organized and brought to you by the amazing evergreen Turtle Rockets. I hear there will be food truck at the finish, but if you think that sounds a little too cushy, check out the photos on their website. All I see is gnarly vert. So, if you're looking for a beating, sign up and race the Dirty Turtle May 20th. Link is in the show notes. But before you sign up, email me at matthias@singletrack.fm because I have a free race entry to give away to one lucky victim. Thanks, Turtle Rockets. All right, about this week's guest. Tera is an endurance running coach focused on enabling women to reach their goals and live their dreams and best lives. Tera and I chatted about equity in the outdoors and how to be welcoming to new folks entering our sport. Tera is also our host of the Trail Running Film Festival in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina on March 15th. Her business, Tera Pruitt of Unstoppable Strength, Endurance and Adventure Coaching, will host an amazing event at the Orange Peel on 101 Biltmore Avenue right in Asheville. Visit trailfilmfest.com for tickets and all the info. All right. Here's Tera. Welcome to Singletrack. Super excited to have you on the show. You are another one of our amazing hosts for the Trail Running Film Festival, but you are obviously so much more than that. So let's not talk about the film festival first, even though that's obviously how we met and we've had lots of conversations over the last couple weeks in trying to make that happen in your community. And we have lots of information about that later in the show. Let's talk about Tera. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and share a little bit from our side of the country in Western North Carolina.
I mean, this was, and now I'm already diving back into the film festival, but this was obviously one of the most exciting things for me as I was reaching out to folks and trying to figure out where the film festival should be, that so many folks came from locations that I would have otherwise never considered. And, it's my own, ignorance by default. I just only know so many people, right? And so I would have I just don't know anybody in North Carolina. You're the first person I know there. So tell us a little bit about what do you do in North Carolina?
So in the part of the state, in the mountains, and we're a very large outdoor community of hiking, biking, canoeing, cycling, and home of the Appalachian Mountains. So the outdoor community has extremely grown here and is very well supported. And I am a strength, endurance, and adventure coach. So I coach the everyday athlete to get out and chase big, hairy ass goals that they never thought possible, and encourage them to see the other side and the other realm of getting outside. And it's important to me to really love on the beginner, intermediate, and I could consider myself the back of the packer, the party pacer, everyday athlete trying to squeeze it in a busy schedule. And I am passionate about loving on that community and encouraging them that it's possible. Like this is possible, and nothing beats taking an adventure and going somewhere that your own 2 feet take you. There's just nothing as special as that. And it is accessible to the everyday athlete. And so many times we think it's just for the people that are sponsored or always win the races, and they all work there. But why not a 30-minute adventure or a mini adventure or a micro adventure? Or why not chase that goal that you can't stop thinking about and is like nudging you every day to get outside and play? So those are the people that I am passionate about nudging and encouraging and being like, yeah, let's do it.
I love this, not just because I'm a back of the packer myself, but there's also, the media in some respects often only highlights the great performances, the ones that we see at races because the camera's already there or because the sponsors want you to highlight these races. But in the end, the outdoors is really for everyone. And to be able to get out there and feel empowered and enabled to explore confidently ourselves is really what this is all about, right?
Yeah, and disconnecting from societal norms, being able to get silent with ourselves. A lot of people get afraid to do that, and be in touch with our own thoughts and connected to nature, and kind of shoving out all the noise. There's just such a sense of peace and renewal and clarity. And my husband's always like, "Well, have you not been out for a run yet? You need to check your attitude." And so it's really cool. Like, he can tell, like, if I've had just this crammed day of, wow, okay, go for a run, go do your thing. And then I come home and my attitude's in check and I've got this like peace and clarity. And I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. We got this. So there's just something special about the change that happens when we start to really empower ourselves or give ourselves permission to have that space to take in self-care. I call it self-care.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's twofold, right? On one side, we're doing something for ourselves. And just that alone is already special. But doing something ourselves, if we're just doom scrolling Instagram, isn't really moving us into a different place, because by now, most of us anyway work in front of screens all day long, right? But truly getting into a place that we normally wouldn't go to, there's such a healthy break from our norm that it refreshes us, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the everyday athlete deserves to chase the goals that they didn't think were possible. They deserve to make plans and adventure and live in their life and do things that set their soul on fire. And if you're constantly watching social media or other people living their life and you're like, I wish, I wish, I wish, well, stop wishing, like take the next step. Make the plan, or take 10 minutes outside, get grounded with your naked feet on the ground, and breathe in nature. And there's studies out that show just listening to the birds chirping in the morning is such an powerful piece of your day. So those little things, it doesn't always have to be an entire day out in the woods or an entire day taking up chores and things like that. It could be just sitting in the sun for a few minutes, and then having the family do it with you. So there's so many ways to make it happen. And it doesn't have to look like the big picture of what is produced or put out there. It can look like many things throughout the day, so that come the weekend, we get excited about planning that adventure and taking that next step and making bigger plans happen.
Yeah.
So yeah. I didn't get into running for that reason, but that's what it turned into for me. I didn't know it at the time. That's what it turned into. Yeah.
We're excited. We're excited about the weekend adventures, but we then also feel enabled and empowered, right? Because that's how I got into running, or even hiking, that I went on a hike and realized, okay, I'm way out of shape. I probably would benefit from doing something during the week so I can actually enjoy the weekend.
Yeah.
Why don't you already teed it off? Why don't we talk about you, Tera, a little bit? How did you discover these outdoors in a world where we tend to just flock to the cities and make those urban areas our home?
So I'm originally from your area. That's where I grew up, and my family still lives in near Olympia in Yale. And I took this big adventure to I went to boarding school and decided to I went to and left North Carolina. As a little girl, I kind of used rain to kind of like escape. My younger years were a little bit more on the ups and downs and traumatic times. And so I used running as like this escape. So I didn't know that running was a piece of me already at a young age. I became I dabbled in gymnastics for a little while. And then I started teaching group fitness. So for 25 years, I've been a group fitness instructor and have been a personal trainer in the gym setting. And then I started getting back into running. Did some half marathons and 5Ks and did some road stuff. Well, then about 2011, a friend of mine was like, hey, I'm running this local trail race. Do you want to run it with me? And I was like, that's the longest distance I've ever ran. I don't know about that. And I was kind of on the edge of like, I'm really sick of road running. It's not pleasing to me. I tried a marathon and it was the worst experience ever because it was the coldest day ever here in North Carolina, in Asheville. And so just none of the pieces had come together for me to really enjoy road running. Well, I started training for this local trail race. And it was a love-hate relationship.
Okay.
It was like, I loved out there, but I was like, this is hard. Why is this so hard? And I was like, I teach group fitness, 6 and 8 classes a week. That's not hard. I, road run 10 to 20, 30 miles a week. That's not hard. Why is this so hard? So at first I was like, forget that. I am done with that. And I took a couple falls and I was like, okay, I need to like figure out some gear or better shoes, or like, I just couldn't figure out why this was so hard, but they kept drawing me out there. And I was like, kept going.
Do you think it was hard? Sorry to interject. Do you think it was hard because it was something new and you sort of had to first adapt? Or do you think it was hard because a lot of road runners have the expectation of keeping up their pace that they're used to, right? And they go on trail, and I always blame the GPS being more wonky on trail. That's why I'm so much slower. But you just you have to be slower on trails, right? And I think for a lot of people, especially the ones who come from a road expectation, that can be really frustrating.
Oh, absolutely. The switch from road to trail, if nobody had I wish someone had told me, you might have to slow down. Don't look at your pace. You might have to walk. You might have to hike some hills. If someone had told me those 3 things, that would have made all the difference in the world. And then if also giving myself permission, I think that's the other tip that would have helped, was like, give yourself permission to take the walks, to be okay to be slower, to leave the watch at home, to learn to listen to your body a little bit more out on the trail. Yeah, absolutely. No one told me that from switching from road running to trail running was going to be a whole nother animal at all. And you're right. The pace thing, I was like, why am I so slow? Why is this so hard? Why can't I run as fast as I do on the road? Which I've never been a fast road runner to begin with. I'm still not.
Right.
So yes, I completely agree with you on that one.
But it was hard, but somehow you stuck with it.
Yeah. So I kind of have like a teeny bit of stubbornness in me, and I feel like to do this sport, you have to. Came race day and we got our first snow, and in the mountains here, we're not as equipped to like take care of the roads. The Blue Ridge Parkway closed because the trail race ran along the Blue Ridge Parkway, and that was where all the crew was, and the finish line had to be moved and rerouted. And so I made it halfway with terrible choice of clothing, not knowing what I was doing. And a blue lips and white fingers. And I decided to stop halfway because I wasn't prepared mentally nor physically to know if I had the ability to continue in the snow. And so the minute I came off course and said, I'm not going to finish DNF, I was crushed. I was mad. I was crushed. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was obsessed with it for like 3 days. And so my husband was like, you are never going to let this go, are you? And so he said, okay, we're going to go out Saturday. And It was covered in snow, all the blues, and he dropped me off. And I'm going to pick you up at the next point that I have an access to, and I'll let you know where I'm at. And he said, go, just go. And so he dropped me off, and he found a place to come and meet me where there was access, that a road had opened finally that day, and met me on the trail. And I was like, I'm not done yet. I'm going to finish the way the racers had to finish, which was an extra 4 miles down a paved road to where the access was open after all the weather happened. So I was like, I'm doing this. And I ran my longest distance on my longest trail race. And after that, I was hooked. I was like, all right, what's next?
I mean, that's very impressive because of those so adverse conditions, so challenging environment. My first trail race was unseasonably warm weather for a winter day. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I like this. And then I had consequential races that were in really poor conditions. But the first one was for me like a total gimme where I was like, oh, this is nice. So you had like a real monster of conditions to deal with, and still you got hooked.
I think there's that challenge too of like, there was not a single soul out there. There was something special about the quietness of the snow, and you could still hear like ice dropping off the trees, and just like no matter what happened, I had to make it to wherever my husband was because there was no other choice. Like there's something that draws us to that. Like there's no other choice. Okay, we're in it. We're doing it. And it just makes it that much more attractive for me. Defying the odds or defying what you think is impossible, or putting your head in a different place of survival mode. There's something attractive about that in this sport. Yeah, so it's probably kind of demonic in a sort of way.
That's hilarious. Well, it is kind of funny because in some respects we in our Western society, we obviously come from a huge amount of privilege, right? The fact that we don't have to live in those kind of situations day in, day out makes us comfortable, but it's also what we need to create for safety, right? There's an important part of it. I'm not decrying that, but rediscovering that then for ourselves as a way of challenging, as well a way of clearing our head. I think it's an important part for us as a society to sort of reconnect with who we are, right?
Yeah, and a piece of that, learning that you can do hard, scary. We, like you said, we tend to be privileged from a lot of realms in our life, and spoiled, what I like to call spoiled.
Yeah.
And we aren't challenging ourselves to really do hard things mentally and physically like we used to. And this is another avenue to be like, all right, I survived that. Now I know I can survive hard things in my normal day-to-day life. So for me, they coincide and they complement each other. You know, you gain a different sense of confidence, a different sense of drive, a different sense of motivation, and a different sense of like really viewing everything in your life. And they just, so they end up intertwining or colliding together to complement each other.
So in that sense, it's not just a physical training where we physically get stronger and might be able to do harder races, but it also becomes a mental training that helps us be stronger in our regular life.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge believer in that mind-body connection. And if you'd asked me in my 20s, I would have said, hell no, that does not exist at all. And even with strength training, or when I when I was a younger trainer training clients, I would have never made that connection until you don't make that connection until you experience it yourself. And you're like, okay, well, there it is. That's what they were talking about all this time. Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So you had your first experience. You conquered through a lot of adverse conditions. Tell to me a little bit about how did that journey continue? What were some of your like highlights you like to think back?
Ultimately, building community, like the trail running community is a whole nother type of family.
Mm-hmm.
And from volunteers to the people cheering at the finish line to, the runners on the course, I was just hooked right away. I was like, I've never experienced this kind of connection with people. On top of it's like I said before, there's something fascinating about knowing that you went somewhere that only your own 2 feet can take you. And there's something special and unique about when you get to that view or that mountaintop or that cliff or that spot that you're like, my feet brought me here. And to experience that moment and like soak it in, I was like, okay, I need to do that again. And I need to do that again. And I need to do it again. And it wasn't always conquering distances for me. It was conquering new places I'd never been before.
Mm-hmm.
And even in our area, we have so many places I've never been, and I just cannot wait to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the most well-known races or runs or routes in your area?
So Mountains to Sea we have the Mountains to Sea Trail. Mount Mitchell is the highest peak east of the Mississippi. It's a popular mountain to climb. Hellbender 100 is here.
Okay.
Our popular local race is called Shut In. That was my first trail race. We have Yeti trail runners in our community as well. So yeah, I mean, we have some known races, but what I am loving is a lot of local race directors are really trying to get back to the small town feel and the grassroots feel of trail running in these small communities. And I appreciate that because, we especially with what we've been through the past few years, there's only a capacity, like I feel like we've reached our ceiling with some of these bigger races. And it's time to get back to really making this an open sport and welcoming for everyone so that we can keep bringing in new people. And making it inviting for them and welcoming for them. And so I'm just digging these small town races, or personally for me, what do you call a fat ass race? Something you just create on your own with a small group of people and you head out, and there's no time constraints. My husband's a great crew person and we have a camper van, and he'll be like, all right, I'll pick you up when you call me. Mm-hmm. Or I'll be at this point if you need food, water, whatever. And so doing things like that is really been the biggest adventure for the past few years. And just seeing that our community hopefully come back together in that realm and getting back into connection and creating that trail running family environment again.
Yeah. I mean, that is so beautiful about our sport, that we don't have this weird gate between the professional runners and then there's a TV screen, and we say into that sport, but we are just sitting on the couch. We're not actually participating. And even if we are super passionate about doing the sport, we would never have a chance to even be at the same start line as some of the people that we might look up to, right? But in our sport, we can do everything from running a local race with 5 of our friends to doing a big race, and some of the biggest stars of our sport are at the same lineup, and we need to fight to preserve that ethos of our sport, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I love a race. Like my most iconic race was doing Squamish. That was like, I watched Squamish for 4 years, coveting the chance to be able to get into that race. And 2019, I finally went for it and took a family trip up there, and it was my most favorite race experience. And
what distance did you do?
I did the 50.
Nice.
And we live in a great place to train for something like that. So I was very grateful to have that option here, to have lots of places to train on technical trails and lots of elevation. But I do believe that's probably been, it was a great race experience. I love Gary Robbins. I think that his trail community takes really good care of all the racers, and the cute little town that was just so excited to have us all there, and just to be in another part of the country. I remember going up there as a kid, so it was just, I don't remember what it looked like then, but it was neat to like visit somewhere I knew I had been as a kid and get to play in the woods up there and play in the mountains up there. Those trails are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Very much more runnable than here.
Oh, okay. So interesting. Explain what makes, well, in some respects, they're mountain bike trails, right? So they're groomed to be able to move on them fast. But how are your trails different? That's me coming from the West Coast.
So what's most popular that comes through here is the Appalachian Trail. Mm-hmm. And so we have a large portion of it that comes through Western North Carolina. From the bottom of Western North Carolina, the Appalachian Trail comes out of Georgia, comes through Western North Carolina, and then goes up towards a little corner of Tennessee. And so the Appalachian Trail is really technical, very rooty, rocky, steep climbs at some points. It's not as groomed as a mountain bike trail. They don't allow mountain bikes or motorbikes on. It's just for hikers and runners. So so it's just, to train, to be able to come out there and be like, woohoo, I'm running these mountain bike trails. There's like, I can actually get a decent speed going and a pace going for a period of time. Now, granted, Squamish had some wicked climbs, and lots of switchbacks. The first switchback, I was like singing all of that out loud. I was like, yeehaw, we're coming around the mountain. I was like, holy moly, switchback heaven. But we have a lot of that here, but they're very rooty and rocky, and you think you get a good pace going, and then all of a sudden it's just this stairway of rocks and roots to climb, literally. And we maintain our trails that way. So we, use we move a lot of rock and downed trees to maintain our trails. So you could come to like a stairway to heaven in the middle of the trail. But it's mesmerizing because we will have like a stretch of a ridge line that you can see for a view, or you'll be in this tree coverage of rhododendrons and not see a view for a long time until you finally get to the top of the mountain somewhere. So it's very much covered up out here. And then above 4,000 feet, 3,500, 4,000 feet, you'll start to get things that look like the West Coast, like the pines, and a lot more smoother portions of the trail mixed in, but still just extremely tree covered out here. Yeah. Nothing like Colorado where it's open and you can see for miles, and you can't see for miles until you get to the top.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's great. I love hearing the environment and the kind of trails that you run on, right? Because trail running connects us, but our trails and what we envision to be our trail is so very different, right? It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's I think the Black Mountain Crest Trail, the Appalachian Trail, the Mountains to Sea Trail. And we're slowly developing some more trails because the Mountains to Sea and the Appalachian Trail didn't always connect. And so there's some new trails forming to connect the two and make some giant loops. So we'll have some more access in the next few years. And then a couple of our areas are opening up mountain bike trails like the Canada, Squamish, Vancouver area that will be mountain bike and trail and hike and horse. And so we're working our way into those realms. So we're getting there. These are a lot of, we are the oldest mountains, and we have a lot of history here and a lot of people want to protect what we have. So we've
Is
got
it
some great community.
is it national park or national forest land? How is the land management happening in your area?
We have both. We have national parks and national forests. And I am learning more about that realm as I volunteer more. And I'm a big believer in that, and in giving back, volunteering. If you can do trail maintenance as a trail runner, I almost feel like it should be required, because that is some real work. And you don't realize what goes into maintaining the trails, but trail maintenance
I feel like we should lobby Strava to add an activity that it says trail maintenance, because so many of our runners love putting their activities up, and they could show off with how many hours they do trail maintenance if they could just log it in Strava.
That, and if you're using them to the extent that, because once it's on Strava, someone sees it and they want to go do the same route. So if we're encouraging others to go use the same route, it's going to get continued use over and over, and a lot of breakdown, plus the normal weather decay. So I feel like you're right. There should be something in somewhere that holds trail runners to some type of volunteer for trail maintenance accountability. And the other side of that is, I feel like more and more race directors could get on board with making that mandatory for runners. And, we're all busy. I get it. But, you could volunteer 10 hours before your race. And that could be 1 day, 2 days, an hour a week, whatever it may look like. There's so much to learn when you get out there and you actually figure out what that entails and how it's involved and how many people, and they're all volunteers, by the way. Just like your search and rescue crew are all volunteers. So, they're volunteering their time to learn about how to make sure we're safe. And if something did happen, they've spent hours upon hours on their skills to make sure that they know how to take care of us. So if you can experience one or the other, search and rescue or trail maintenance, and understand what it takes to make sure we get to enjoy our run every day, that would be an epic piece of doing your part as a trail runner. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Well said. So now your passion and your personal experience is clear, but you then took it one step further and you said, well, wait a second, I want to draw people in. You are turning this into a business. So tell us a little bit about how you went from this is fun to, wait a second, this is so much fun, I need to bring other people in.
So as I mentioned before, I've always been in the health and wellness realm as a personal trainer and a group fitness instructor. And then I started exploring outside more, and I was like, oh, this is a whole nother world that I've got to learn everything about. And then I started talking about it more and more in my community from the gym realm. And a lot of people didn't know how to get started or where to begin, or, what does it mean to crew someone? What does it mean to pay someone? What kind of gear do I need? And I was like, we don't a lot of people just overcomplicate it so they don't even get started. And so what I saw was runner breakdown. So I'm passionate about getting women to strength train, especially women runners. But women should be strength training, especially if you're a runner, especially if as an aging female athlete, you must be strength training. I love coaching, I love run coaching. And so I added that on because I found, like, I'm a coach at heart, and I was mentoring a lot of people in that realm. And then I was like, okay, I might as well dive into the certification side of things, so I'm official. And then this past year, I started doing some backpacking trips to bridge the gap and open the doorway to people, especially women, to get out and backpack and solo hike and solo run. So this past year, I took a couple of small groups of women out backpacking for their first time. So that was and that can get a lot of expensive gear. So I wanted it to be something simple, and start with one night, work your way up to 2 nights. You don't have to buy a ton of gear. We can borrow gear, we can rent gear. So just being able to get that door open to some possibilities for people to experience our great outdoors in another realm. So yeah. And then of course, I'm in the middle of getting a new run club going here in Asheville. We have a lot of run club options. And I think, I mentioned this when I chatted with you about bringing the trail festival here. I feel like, personally, for me, when I go to a run club, I'm like, well, what's the route? Nobody tells me the route. Well, what, like, everybody's talking about pace or gear or it's time that we love on the new people, I guess, is
Okay.
where I'm going with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And,
Sometimes it feels a little
they're-
bit like an old boys club. 5 people meeting,
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
knows each
yeah,
other and knows the
yeah,
route and knows how things are
yeah,
done, right? And so you sort of
yeah,
forget to make the introduction to the new people, right?
yeah. So you could say I'm passionate about loving on the new people. I want them to feel welcome and ready and freedom to go at their own pace, and like it's okay to walk. Or like, hey, this is your first time. I'm gonna hang out with you if that's okay. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hang out back here and we'll just chat a little bit. Yeah, and feel seen. Like, we all want to feel seen. So that's important to me. So the working my way into the run group realm is more in that. I want to love on, it's called the back of the pack or the party pace. The people that want to enjoy the view and go their own pace. So yeah, it's getting there. We're getting there. Yeah.
And it's a fascinating concept because I mean the professional, the serious runner in many ways is overserved, right? There are enough outlets there are enough connections made for them to be made. There's enough resources available, but these beginner runners, these first time lurkers, they in many ways need more hand holding because everything is strange, everything is new. And if there's somebody there like you who can really have a focus on these folks, then they will have a much greater time and will much more likely not just enjoy the moment, but also discover for themselves their place in this in this world, in this community, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we have to remember too that that the competitive athletes have a different mindset, and that's great.
Yeah.
They have this gift of an entirely different mindset, and that's there for them to be nurtured in that setting, in say a run group setting or even a race setting. That's to their advantage. They need that, and so I never want to minimize that, because that's a gift. That's something special that. Yeah. But not everyone's mindset is made that way. And so ultimately someone might need permission to walk, a little extra nudge to be like, come on, you got this. And the I guess in that environment, I will say the biggest boost or benefit is everyone there was in their spot at some point. You may not remember if it had been a long time ago, but you were once a beginner. And so to get the reminder that, hey, so-and-so that just like PR'd today was once a beginner too, and they didn't get where they are now by sitting on the sidelines. And so there's, it's sometimes about switching the mindset to a new person that, hey, kudos to you, cheers, you made it here today, and that was brave of you. Now you take the next step, and you take it one step further by going, getting out there and pounding the pavement or the trail and being consistent with it. And then you too can probably surpass that person up front at some point one day.
Yeah.
So, it was just a little bit of love and nudge and like, yeah. And I think just that little bit of encouragement can go a long way. And sometimes you or I might need that encouragement one day. It might be us needing it. So, when we give it, it goes around and it'll come back to us at some point too.
Yeah, we sometimes even inadvertently sort of pull the ladder up behind us, right? Where we're eager to progress. We eager to get into a sport or into any activity or hobby, but we sometimes, and I don't really know because often it's not intentional. Right? We start speaking in acronyms, or right, we sort of come up with our own language, and before we know it, we are not. We don't speak to the people anymore that actually would love to learn more. Actually, would love to get excited about what we're doing, but can't really because everything sounds Greek, right?
Yeah, and that is the cool part about it. I mean, I will say, like, I tell people, you're not a real runner until you shit your pants. That's just the way it goes. Or you have to be able to take a poo on the side of the trail. I'm sorry, we can't be friends until you do that. You're not allowed to spend the whole day out there with me unless you do that. And people are like, oh my gosh, no way, I would never do that. And I was like, well, if you hang out with me long enough, this is what's going to happen. And they're like, I can't believe you talk about that. Like, that's just gross. And I'm like, okay, well then this is probably not the sport for you. So yes, we end up developing our own lingo and our own verbiage and our own way of talking about things. And yeah, so that's basically like, if you can't do those things, then it's probably going to be a tough entryway for you.
That is amazing. Well, I mean, if those folks have somebody, a coach, a guide like you, then they'll be able to translate and interpret and figure out how to take the first step and how to figure out what's important and what is not, and what to work on and what to leave off. So
We're definitely going to keep things real over there. Yeah.
that is very important. And I think that, yeah, this is something that I think everyone in a sense discovers for themselves when they're actually on the trails. You start sort of peeling off the layers of our sort of professional life and etiquette, and this realness creates better connections in many ways. It's not like that we all of a sudden become rude, but we sort
Right.
of right we're connecting in a different way, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So you are now hosting the Trail Running Film Festival, and I'm super excited about this because, I'm, as I've said now multiple times, we set this program up in a way that I don't have to travel. And I'm bummed now that I'm meeting with all these people because now I would like to travel. It would be fun to get to know your community, to get to know you and kind of how you're connecting with your community and how you're interpreting how the community can come together and stuff. I'm super excited about the films that we've lined up and seeing sort of the responses of how the filmmakers tell great stories, and they want their stories to be shared, and we're sort of the connector in between, where these are not my films, these are not my story, right? I'm sort of passing them on to you and sort of creating a vehicle. And I mean, being able to sort of package it up allows you and so many others to be able to host a film festival and tell these stories, but then also bring your community together. So tell our listeners a little bit kind of what your plan is, what you see when what you're going to do.
We are grateful to have our host site is called the Orange Peel of Asheville. It is a music venue downtown Asheville. So when you do come, you get to see the heart of downtown Asheville. And it is going to be really cool. I've watched the film festival when you guys were coming to town, because you did come to Asheville a couple of times. So I did go to those film festivals. And then, of course, I did online during the shutdown. I was excited every year to watch it online. We made it like a movie night for us. So that was exciting. And so when you reached out about bringing it to our own towns, I foresaw a great chance for us to bring our running community back together, much like probably many other running communities. 2020 kind of put us in our shells, and then it made it very kind of nervy. Everyone was nervous to kind of get back into things. And I feel like we're not quite there yet of getting back to our communities. And I also look at this as a time of renewal to be able to bring our communities not only back together, but encourage new people to come in and check it out as well. So I was stoked that we were able to make this happen and be able to share these films. You know, we all have a story. This is the cool thing about running is you'll be in a race or be out on the trail, and you get to gaining conversation with someone and you learn about their story. We all have this amazing story that brought us to this point. And I cannot wait to share the stories in these films of each person or each journey, because it's truly, like, I can't say that there's never been a time I've watched this film festival that I haven't cried in a good way, or I haven't been inspired that why did I think I couldn't do this? This person did it and defied all these things. And so if anyone can take away one thing from these inspiring films, is that you too have the ability to go out and chase these big, hairy ass goals as well. And there's nothing stopping you but you. And so I hope that not only can our community come together, reconnect, find some, ways to like get out there and do fun things, but bring in some of the new people so that they can get inspired too, and maybe take their first step into that adventuring on their own 2 feet.
I love this. I think that is truly at the heart what the film festival offers, right? Because if we can invite new folks to a trail race, but there is a little bit more of you need to already have a pair of running shoes. You need to already be comfortable with spending the race entry and potentially moving that distance, however way you're planning on doing this, right? But to be able to, in a very comfortable way, sort of take a first dip in is such a great way of experiencing what trail running is all about, what amazing stories are out there, and what you yourself can go and experience if you just move a little bit, have a little bit of courage and adventure, right?
Yeah, and I love that when let's say you go eat somewhere at a restaurant, or you go to a work conference, or you attend somewhere you don't know a single soul, pretty much everyone puts on their best presence and good behavior. And the cool thing is, in trail running, you get out there and you're just taking it face value. And there's no barriers, there's no preconceived notions, there's no there's no, I guess, what would you call it, labels. We've all worked hard in our personal lives for our, careers and everything like that. But when you start to talking to that person that's struggling beside you, and you're in a good place, but they're struggling, or vice versa, and you start sharing, life moments or journeys, or, they start kind of opening up, and then you open up more. And there's something special about that connection that, I think that was one of the coolest things about getting into this sport was, it's kind of like they tell you when you drive your kids to school is the best time to talk to them. Well, the best time to talk to a trail runner is on the trail, when they're really struggling and they're like, this sucks and life sucks and everything sucks. But no, this is awesome. The most coolest thing I've ever done. And there's just that moment that you're both just looking at each other like, you're my best friend now. And I feel like that could be something that a new person may not realize is a part of that journey. That will be so cool, that this is like aha moment of connecting with people in a whole nother realm. You would have never met that person on the street on a normal day, but today it was meant to be on the trail, and it's such a cool thing.
Yeah, no, that is super. All right, so the Trail Running Film Festival in North Carolina at the Orange Peel in Asheville.
Yeah.
What's the date for it?
March
I
15th.
I should know all of this. I've typed it all in 400 times, but I've done
Yeah,
it too
why
many
don't you
times.
remember all?
Yeah, exactly. March 15th. Fantastic. Tickets can be had on the website at trailfilmfest.com. Has all of the links to that. But do you have anything special planned? Anything beyond? Do you have anything brewing that you haven't that goes beyond the films?
Yes. So during our intermission, I am having local athletes come up and do a little questionnaire panel on what got them started in their journey. And this is another aspect to learning about everyone has a story. The everyday athlete having a story. We have a gentleman that has tried for Western States for 7 years and finally got into Western States in 2020.
Nice.
So now, yeah. So we have a gentleman talking about that. We have a female young athlete who is up and coming. You're going to want to watch out for her name. She just FKT'd the Foothills Trail out and back, supported. And then a couple of other secrets in the works to interview some everyday athletes that are local, that are just out there doing the grind, the normal day-to-day, mom and dad thing, and then still chasing their own goals. So yeah, I got a few things in the works. I can't wait to share.
Ah, fantastic. Okay, so if people wanted tickets, they can go to our website. If people want to learn more about you, how is the best way to connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram at Tera_Pruitt, both with E's. Yes.
All right. We'll link that in the show notes so people can check you out, connect, get if they're close, they'll get a ticket and come to the show. And if they have questions, I don't know, perhaps they'll start being coached by you. Fantastic.
Yeah. If you're ever in the Asheville area, then hit me up and I'll help take you to some really fun, cool places.
I like it. Tera, thank you so much for coming on Singletrack. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Yes, thank you so much.